Hi, this is lesson 1.11. Why did Ronald Reagan believe that America was so great? This is the text of a speech that Reagan gave in 1974. That was about 8 years before, or excuse me, 6 years before he became the President of the United States. And he gave it at a conservative conference, which is that's held every year or so. That is all dedicated to people that are Republicans or people that have very conservative views. So keep that in mind. He's governor of California, and he has this thought in the back of his brain of his political ambitions of where he wants to be in the next couple years in terms of his political goals. So again, this was in 1974. Let's go through this. Vocabulary words are pretty easy with this lesson. There's only 4 of them. Make sure you check it out on your lesson to make sure that you understand those. But other than that, let's give this a roll. So this is 1974, Ronald Reagan, A City on a Hill. I have always believed that there was some divine plan that placed this great continent between 2 oceans to be sought out by those who were possessed of an abiding love of freedom and a special kind of courage. This was true of those who pioneered the great wilderness in the beginning of this country, way back when it was settled. As it is also true of those later immigrants who are willing to leave the land of their birth and to come to a land where even the language was unknown to them. 1/2 of all the economic activity in the entire history of man has taken place in this republic, in our country. We have distributed our wealth more widely among our people than any society known to man, meaning that we people in our country are generally a lot better off. We spread the riches around our nation. Americans work less hours for a higher standard of living than any other people. 95% of all our families have an adequate daily intake of nutrients, and a part of the 5% that don't are trying to lose weight. He's trying to make a joke there, saying that the 5% that don't have those nutrients are on a diet. 99% have gas or electric refrigeration. 92% of our citizens have televisions, and an equal number have telephones. There are 120 million cars on our streets and highways, and all of them are out on the street at once when you're trying to get home at night. Again, this is Reagan's attempt to have some humor in his speech. But isn't this just proof of our materialism? The very thing that we are charged with don't those facts that everyone has cars and refrigerators, etc., doesn't that just prove that we're a bunch of materialistic people that are only caring about our stuff versus what's good? He goes on. Well, we also have more churches, more libraries, more nonprofit theaters, and we support voluntarily more symphony orchestras and opera companies. We publish more books than all the other nations of the world put together. So not only do we like our crap, we love our stuff. We also like to give back. We also like to go to church and that kind of stuff. He's trying to say that we're really a good group of people morally as well. Not only do we like our stuff, but we like to make sure that everyone has a little something too. In the last paragraph of our document, we cannot escape our destiny, our future, nor should we try to do so. The leadership of the free world was thrust upon us 2 centuries ago in that little hall of Philadelphia when our country really was started. We are indeed, and we are today, the last best hope of man on earth. Well, that's what he's saying, that we, the United States, are the last best hope, really, of the future of mankind. Well, that kind of makes us feel, it makes it seem like we're better than everyone, which I guess is Ronald Reagan's point. His point is that we're the greatest country on the planet because not only do we have a bunch of stuff, but we also like to give back to our communities. We like our cars, we like our televisions, but we also like our churches and our charities and things like that. We have not only a good amount of stuff, but the quality of life here and the reason for living is just better than everywhere else on the planet. So he's going on and on about this to try to prove that our country is really the best place on earth to be. Just a special note, when we were going through this paragraph right here, I know it's backwards on your screen, but right here where he's talking about where 95% of all families have an adequate daily intake of nutrients, and that 99% have gas or electric refrigeration. Keep in mind this is 1974. This is 50 some years ago. So not it's not like today. And when he's talking about 92% of people have telephones, he's not talking about cell phones. He's talking about old-fashioned on the wall of your kitchen refrigerator type of telephones that have a little cord that you have to walk around with. So keep in mind this is a little bit outdated by today's standards, but his point is the same nonetheless, where we have lots of material goods in this country. Even the poor people in this country are considered relatively well off when you look at some other countries in the world that aren't as fortunate. And that's really his point, that our country is great because even the poor people have pretty much everything that they need. Now, if you ask a poor person that, they might disagree with you, and they might not think that this country is so great. But the point that Reagan is trying to make here is that we are better in terms of our stuff, in terms of our spiritual, self, in terms of our charitable giving, in terms of the quality of life, in terms of our ethics. We're the best gosh darn country on the planet. And that's really where he's coming from. And keep in mind, this is 1974. This isn't all that far away from like the Civil Rights Movement and some other major events in U.S. history, like the man landing on the moon, or John F. Kennedy getting shot. That's only about a decade before this. So keep that in mind when you look into this. So what I'm asking you to do in this document, I know this is backwards for you, but I'm asking you to take notes and for each paragraph kind of write down the main idea that Reagan's getting at in each one of your paragraphs. That way when you come back to this at the end of the unit, you'll have a really good, one-sentence summary for each paragraph, and you'll be able to read this document a lot more quickly at the end of the unit. Then it's asking you just 2 critical thinking questions right here on the next page. And then it's asking you for question number 3 to look into some of the modern statistics that really Reagan was talking about. So Reagan talks about like 95% of Americans in 1974 have a refrigerator, and that 92% have telephones. And then there's tons of cars on the street, so that proves that we're wealthy and that we have churches up the yin-yang and all of that. It's asking you to go and look at the statistics from back then and then compare them maybe to modern day statistics. Just a few reflections about whether you think he was on point or if you think he was kind of just full of himself. Yeah. I'll be around the classroom if you need some help. Yeah.